Hey, welcome back to the Hoosier Garage. It's a nice, cold Saturday morning. Almost middle of October. We're gonna go to the junkyard, so stay tuned for a new adventure.
You're watching the most unique automotive channel on YouTube, the Hoosier Garage.
Alright, so the plan today is to at least look at, again, the satellite station wagon that has the sway bar. I don't see myself getting the whole thing out, but I would like to at least try to get the brackets and the bar itself. Now, I would do it that way now just because in case something happens and I can't get to the rest of it later. I don't want to just forego the whole setup just trying to get it all at once. So I'm going to just get parts of it if I can, and then at a later date, if I get a better opportunity, I'll go pull the control arms out, because you know the control arms on these they got the torsion bars in them. They're mounted to the back side of the K-frame. It's a little bit of a job to get it out, and it's sitting way back in the woods. So I brought as many tools as I can, and I know if I can make it reasonable, I can get the bar and the bracketry out, and then at least you'll have that in case the yard goes under. We've kind of explained that before, but once this gentleman that owns the yard, that he's owned it for the better part of 70 years. Once he dies, the EPA's been on him and all that stuff. They want to clear it out in that year afterwards, so it might get real dicey after that as far as getting anything, and it's all going to go to the scrapper. So we want to get what we can, and then I'm going to look at a few other things. Mofo driver needs some cooler line fitting nuts. On your automatic transmissions, you have the fitting on the radiator. Well, he needs the actual nut that screws the line, compresses it to the fitting. And I don't have any extras, and I never have any extras because I have them per use. So I'm going to just try to grab a few that are on cars that most of them are shot, but just get a handful of them, then we'll have a backstock of them if we ever need them, like he does, then we'll have them. And there's a couple other things I need to get for myself, just things we need to pick up. I'm hoarding more nowadays, Mopar wise, so we want to get some stuff while we can. I mean, this is the stuff that we talk about. Oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have hoarded more stuff, but then that place went away. Well, this is the time, and the time is now. So we'll see you out there. And look, there's like a Pontiac GTO or something. I mean, 67. Wow. Alright, so we're back at the yard, and if you remember my video where we pulled the heads off of that 69 Monaco just over the hill over there, I kind of previewed this car. I've shown it in the past. It's a 71 satellite wagon. You can tell it's a 71 by the marker lights, the holes there. I got one of these at home, so that'll help actually for our 71 that we have. It's a two-door, and but this one's kind of an odd car. Our friend Kyle actually has all the paperwork on it from the dealer that it was sold from here locally, and he'd gotten all the records when the dealer closed a few years ago. But it's a heavy-duty suspension car, but it has drum brakes, and it has a 318, 904,
And this is the part I showed before. I'd like to get that sway bar out. And like I mentioned earlier before we came out here. So I don't know if it'll be able to. I did bring a farm jack, because these tires are technically in the way of the one arm here. And you can see how rotted this stuff is. So it might be a challenge. We might have to snap all that off. Not sure if we'll even get this today. It's one of those situations where you get it in your head, maybe a plan, and then you get there and you're like, okay, it's like looking at a car out in the wild. You know, you're kind of surprised. Okay, it has this much to go through, this much, but we can at least put some of this wonderful stuff on here. Maybe let it soak until the next time, because we do plan on coming in here a bit more as it cools down and all the growth goes away. But you're just kind of assessing what it needs, and there's just a lot of crap from the woods set down here. So I might knock all of this out and just open it up, spend a few minutes doing this, getting it back to the ground. Obviously that battery trays was nothing. You could just see this car's dead, really dead. So I'm gonna fool with that a little bit, and then when we get done with this, we're gonna run around and look for some other stuff. I have our small list of the items that we're gonna get, but we'll fool around here and then see what we can do. The only way I can get into the car, actually, I noticed the windshield was actually hanging loose on it. All the doors are locked. Or jammed shut, I don't know. I was gonna take a look at our cowl panel just to see if it happened to have been good enough to just cut the whole section out for our 71 at home. It is twice as worse as ours, so forget that. Trying to break it up. Return to the earth from whence you came. Here's the sway bar bracket right here. Gosh. And make sure you look and there's no snakes or something in here before you go sticking your hand in. If the cooler lines have any of the nuts on them, it's kind of looking like they don't, or they might have been run to another cooler. Dying. Yeah, there's the peck. Yep, they're gone on that one, so forget that, dude. Let's go to another car and find them. But we still need to clear all this out so we can put some penetrating oil on there. It's deviating its course and goes up to the front. There must be another cooler up here. Yeah, yeah, okay. So it's a one of them dudes. One of them dudes. All right, so we want to clear this off, so when we put some penetrating oil on there, it'll soak into these two nuts here, and we might want to get these off too, so the bar will slide out when we are ready to get it out. On this side, obviously, have an alternator in the way. We're just gonna have to get it out. All right, so another thing I was set out to do, and actually reminded when I saw the car, was we need to get these taillight bezels off for John Wilburn. And he's not real picky about their condition. They're usually roached. These are pleasantly roached, but I think he's planning to paint them black. So, and the bad thing about these is that the studs always like to break. So I think two of them are worthlessly broke, but this one, the nut will still work, and then this one will still work. So hopefully that's not a big deal. I've had these cars before. Sometimes it's not that big a deal because they hold in there really tight. The lenses are also good on all four of them. So I'm just going to take the whole housing, and the bezels are usually pretty reasonable. So I'm just going to take a little time set here and work these things loose. I can't remember what car this is, if it's a 74 or 75, what year it is. And I've sprayed oil on them. That seems to help for the most part. But those studs, I mean, they're made of pot metal. That's why they blister as bad as they do, and that's why they snap as easy as they do. And the worst ones are the ones way back in here, because it's back in that corner. But never mind that. We'll get them off. We'll save them. They won't get scrapped. When the rest of this car will obviously get scrapped, because it has the option of the spring, leaf spring, through the floor. That was a some kind of ride package they offered back in the mid-70s, and sometimes earlier cars were optioned with that too. So yeah. All right, so we got John's taillights right here, and Mofo Driver needed a Slant 6, later model Slant 6 air breather. Oh, it came from that. So I guess we're on to still finding some line fittings for the cooler lines, that sort of thing. So on our way forward. Gold Duster 72. And yeah, the taillights are wrecked. But we've got good taillights, so ain't worried about that. But hey, they only made this particular glass for a few years. So, I'm gonna try to get the old squeezy bottle here and soak them screws. And we might take the glass out if we can get it out. I think 70 through 72 was this particular bolt pattern. Now the shape was the same, so people will argue with you on that, but 73 had its own glass, and then 74 and up had its own glass. And the earlier cars seem to be, in my neck of the woods, harder to find. So you find this one, and it's really hard to get to that side over there. I think the door's jammed shut, but we might look at that later. So we'll let this soak. All right, so I think we found the car. And the car I pulled a few things off of, mainly the roof gutter trim and some random disc brake parts that somebody had stupidly left over from when they pulled most of it out. And what we can get from this one is the cooler line fittings. They're the stock ones. There's a bunch of Chryslers up through here, but either they're snapped off, snipped off, rotted off, or just plain missing. And this one looks like I could probably take some wrenches, pop them loose. And I have also a little pipe cutter here if we need to. Might be a little bit of a struggle, but we'll get them out. So I'm back closer to the front of the yard. And as you come down this hill, there's this old Dodge military van, much like mine, but it's a window van. It's a sportsman model. And it did have some pieces of like a 68 Coronet in there. I got one of the taillights long ago. And I know one guy a while back picked up quite a few pieces. I think he got digging around in there and found some good parts. Because when I was here another time, I saw a pile that he had. Looked like he was getting down in here. So good deal on that. Looks like something like a Chevelle or Malibu. With a big bend in it, taillight bezel. And there's all kind. I mean, who knows what's underneath all this? If it had just had time to go through it slowly, you know, stuff like early '60s, I guess. I mean, it's just seemingly endless. And if we go around the corner down here, some of you might remember I picked up some front fascia, front face grill, stuff like that from a '69 Plymouth Satellite. It was sitting over here. Well, whatever the remains of it were, like maybe the radiator opening. I think it was a large radiator, so it's gone. It was just really just the scrap pieces of the very front of the fender front clip that just been hacked off. So that's gone, which is cool. People are seeing it and grabbing it. Here's a Pontiac Firebird that is gone. It's like a full terrarium in there. Oh, one thing over here, there's a Ford, I think. And it has the old Thrush Can Thunder style exhaust on it. And you can kind of see it's actually taken a good hit in the last few months. You used to be able to see the bird on them, and the dark blue with the white stripes. But these are the old Thrush sheet metal mufflers. And yeah, there's other stuff over there. Actually, over here somewhere, get my bearing. Like I said, it's really hard to tell when all the vegetation's in place. But somewhere over there, there's a flatbed truck, and it's got a 727 transmission on it. And I think it's a small block. But if it's a big block, I ought to grab it, right? I'll walk over here real quick. Somewhere back here, there's a Hemi also. Here it is. Old Hemi, don't get too excited. It's a Dodge Red Ram Hemi. Oil pan. Upside down. Something up there, stirring around. And then you got an old flathead Ford right here. So we'll keep coming out here, and let me know if you like the videos of this place, and if you haven't seen the other ones from when it was really winter time, you can check those out. They're back in Junkyard Time Warp, and or any of these cars were $600. And there was another one where I think the thumbnail looks like I've got some 7-Up guy glasses on. But I've done a few out here. It's just a fascinating place because there's just piles and piles of stuff that's accumulated over 60-65 years. And I mean, there's just stuff that you could even repurpose, like that tank for whatever, you know. Just all kinds of fabrication possibilities. And there's something over there with a Mopar filter on it. I can't tell what that is. Huh. There's a drive shaft, or a bunch of drive shafts in a truck up here, and I think there might be another 727 yoke on the end of one of them. So I'm going to take a quick look at that and see if we can figure it out if it is one. A while back I picked up one. It was in the back of a bus with mostly electronics. And I looked at it and had that real deep, like a shank on it, and then it had the splines inside it. And I looked up, and sure enough, it's a 727 slip yoke, and we got a drive shaft, like from a B-body. So that'll probably get repurposed into our Duster. And we're also going to need one for the satellite, because when I got it, that was the only thing that was really missing from the whole package was a drive shaft and a slip yoke. So hopefully we'll get lucky. Alright, so I checked out the splines on that one that I suspected. And it might be, but the inside of where the splines actually are, it looks a little rough, like it maybe had a lot of pitting. So that's obviously going to weaken it. And to boot, it has probably 10 other drive shafts and a bunch of scrap steel on it. So for me to get it out, it'd probably take quite a bit of effort and quite a lot of time. So what I'm going to go take a look at is the video where we had another video here, the junkyard, was the 8 3/4 Adventure, and that's where we got the 8 3/4 out of a 65 or 6, I think 66 Dodge Monaco. 489 case, 276 open rear in it. But I really need it, cut it down, put it in the Duster. And that's something I was going to start a long time ago, but we got into finishing our other projects first before we really got committed to that. So I'm going to go back up to that car. I think it's right up here. And the drive shaft was in it. But I remember taking a tug on it, but it didn't want to come out. So it might be stuck in there, or unless the early one's bolted somehow, I don't know. But I'm going to take another look. And one we ought to pull out is right there. It's another 65 or 6 Monaco big block car, and it has a 49 case in it as well. I'm sorry, 742. Pardon me, 742. This one had a 742, And so that one needs to be saved too, at least the rear. The car's pretty roached out and rough, but yeah, there's quite a few 8 3/4 in here. It's probably my biggest hang up on all this stuff. Like for instance, this car, we've showed this one before. Now that I properly know how to look for the engine size, let's see if I can see. On the 383s are on the passenger side. The 440s are over there on a raised pad. This obviously isn't a 440. And I cannot tell what that is. I'm guessing it's a 383, but it could be a 361. And it's still got a rear axle under it, but you know, it's just taking the effort to get the car up and getting it out, among others. So there's the car that we pulled the axle from last year. Crawl over this stuff. And it's still got all the stuff as we left it. Rotten lower part of the car. So, there's the drive shaft. I'm gonna crawl under there and get a light on it and see if it looks like it's available to get out. It's a big block car also. And usually these were 361s, but I'm sure they got their share of stuff too. Looks like somebody's been scratching on this one to look, and it's so hard to tell sometimes. You don't always get the best light. Oh, will this come out? Well, that'll help. It's a 383, it looks like, yeah. It's very hard to tell. 383 B, 67 was C, so this is a 66 Monaco. Taillights will even tell you in most cases. So, yeah, I'm gonna crawl in there and we'll take a look. It's funny sitting out here and listening, because there's so many aspects of the woods and you just hear cars getting clanked with walnuts and branches. But anyway, it's funny with this, it came right out. Last year, when we got the rear out, I tugged on it and turned it and brought it up at different angles because it's on the U-joint and tried to pull it and it would not move. This time it just slid right out. So here it is. And I'm guessing that's what we need. And look how nice in condition it is because it's been preserved inside the transmission all that time. So we're going to take this whole thing. It's got the, I think the earlier styles were known for these kind of big donut U-joint yokes or whatever. So nice little score. But see, this yard's loaded with them. So if you need something like that and you can't find it reasonable, please let me know. And I'll try to show you where it is, or if we try to get one for you. So there's dust in my throat. Just take a look at some of the other cars here. Trim stuck in the ground. I think that's a Ford, ain't it? Maybe a Fairlane. Charger. It's got an 8 3/4 in it. I think it's a Tri-5 Chevy. 63 or 4, 5 maybe. Dodge. And all the like, and there's much more. It was actually a GTO. About the same model as what we saw when we was driving in over the hill there. It was painted purple, but there's nothing left. You could tell where it had the GTO emblems, but it was wrecked up really hard. I wouldn't have been surprised if somebody died in that one. But that's besides the point. So I'm looking around. There's some other stuff up on the other side of the front. These old kind of Grumman style trucks, box trucks. Strong odor of rotten gas, but I was just kind of poking around here, see what you can find. There's some old, maybe military style skillets, possibly. And then my brother used to be into these when he was a kid, before I was even born. Big Jim. It was like Mattel's competition to G.I. Joe. It says 1972 Mattel. But yeah, Big Jim. He's like the 12-inch doll action figure man, you know. And I'm just kind of looking around, just seeing if anything stands out to me. I'm sure there's something. There's the other part of the Big Jim. It's like the camper, yeah, sports camper. There's some old 1950s, 60s tables. Maybe an old air cleaner. Just stuff, man. Old stuff mostly, which is kind of the cool thing about it. This one here, it's kind of tied off, but it's really hard to tell. More old stuff. Just a big junkyard adventure, you know. Some of these are pretty rough getting into. That drive shaft I told you about earlier, the one I found before, not that one, that's a pretty rough old one there, but it was actually leaning right here with these other ones. And this one's just full of cabinets and some kind of maybe old projector unit up there. It looks kind of familiar, like something that was left over from when I was in school. And electronics, yeah, keyboards, a chainsaw, a toolbox full of electrical stuff, a little military box. We looked at that one from the 60s. This one here was interesting. It's like an old 50-something, early 50s Chevy, and it's absolutely full of military helmets, the liner helmets that go inside your steel pot, and then the belts. And my dad loves World War II stuff, and we rolled upon this, and he was able to salvage quite a few of them. One of them was a medic's helmet, had the big, like you see on MASH, with the white circle with the red cross in it. And so if you need any of these type of belts like this for any reason, if you're a collector even, they are absolutely full to the bottom of the back floor in this old deluxe Chevy. I'll just add this on to the one we're doing. All right, so I'm about ready to conclude the trip out here, and we've met. What's your name?
Tom Condor.
He was checking it out, and he saw my van sitting out there. So small world, right? He's into it. Wait, we got 65.
I'd like to have 65.
65 dark.
That's what I'm gonna get. I'm piecing parts together right now.
That's one way to do it. And he found one up the hill. He got some nice pieces off of that. And I told him there's another one. I think it's 64, 65 over on the ridge. And we're gonna make sure he gets what he can off that. So we'll see what we got. So what year is that?
64 or 65. I believe it's 65.
Now my cousin's, his is a 66, and he don't have any of those, but some of the parts have worked on some of these.
66 got 1 year only square bezel frame. My first car was a 66. Somebody might correct us in the comments.
They
but
might.
I think it's a 65.
I think this one has a Buick radio in it, which is odd, but there's some stuff there. The tank was rotting out. We got the straps off of it, and I think the filler tube or something.
I believe this is a 270. Did it say it in there?
Yep, 270.
There we go.
Floors are gone, but there's plenty of little knick-knack stuff.
There's another dark blue one up the hill. That's a same model year, 270, and there's a GT over the other.
The GT. Yeah, the GT. Yeah,
Looks like a
I'm now I
baby blue.
remember which one it is. That light kind of aqua color
Actually,
in it.
maybe the better one of the three.
Yes.
I want to keep it in the memory banks. Maybe consider coming back and getting it.
It might be on one of the other videos that we got too. Now somewhere on the other side, there's a trunk lid sitting there, and I think it still has some taillight pieces in it.
Okay. All right.
And it's just randomly sitting against a tree.
Yeah. So it sounds like I'm doing it backwards, but knowing that the grills are hard to find, headlight bezels, pull front end parts. This is what's always damaged, right? You know, it's
Yeah, the
so
tin
grab
stuff.
dog-
Yeah.
Right. The baby blue one's got a great doghouse on it too. It's really nice.
Cool. Yeah, so there, you know, there's never know what you might find. Oh, so that does have the filler tube. I can't remember what else we got off of this one. I know we got the straps, and then because that tank is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Glass pack or something in there.
Yeah. Somewhere around here, might be right there, there's a massive pile of like 40s and 50s, mainly 40s cars. Just looks like they all just got shoved up the hill.
Indiana's original.